So why am I doing these podcasts? So that is a really good question. And while I'm sat here and getting ready, the anxiety coming up to this, I was thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? My name is Nettee and welcome to this podcast. This podcast I've called This Too Is Healing, and it's taken me a long time to come up with a name of what to call this podcast. It was like, what was I going to call it? Was I going to call it Nettee? What am I going to do? And I called it This Too Is Healing because healing for individual people is different for everybody. How I manage myself and how other people manage themselves is completely individual. So this too is healing that is also healing, and this is healing, and that's healing. So everybody has their own spin on how they look after themselves and how they manage, particularly their mental health. So I'll just say a few things about myself, because there'll be people that are watching and listening to this that know me, Nettee, through work and things like that. But there's people that have never heard of me before. Who is this woman? So I thought I'll just say a few things about me. So why am I doing these podcasts? So that is a really good question. And while I'm sat here and getting ready, the anxiety coming up to this, I was thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? And I think the reason I'm putting myself through this is I want to reach as many people as possible. So you can, on a day-to-day basis, I can reach people individually. Then you can reach people on social media. But a lot of people are listening to podcasts and they relate to the words and the people and the talking, and they're nice things. And I thought this was just another step, another thing I can do to help people with their mental health. So I'm an advocate for mental health. And the reason I'm an advocate for mental health is because I've been through a journey myself. So I've been through lots of things that have helped me grow, and the challenges that have come up have made me into the person I'm right now. So I feel I'm a good person for these podcasts and to talk about mental health, because for those of you that don't know, my day job, I'm a paramedic. So I work full time for the ambulance service. And of course, a big part of our job is going to people with mental health issues. So obviously that's a big thing. It's a big subject at the moment, particularly after COVID. A lot of people struggled with their mental health over COVID, and a lot of attention was brought to the world with the mental health because people weren't used to being isolated. And as humans, we're not meant to be isolated. We're meant to be together as a collective. We're meant to be a community. And I think COVID isolated us. And then that showed the cracks in people's mental health, which if you were already kind of on the edge, it kind of tipped a lot of people over the edge. So on a day-to-day basis, I am meeting patients that suffer with their mental health. So I'm having that conversation a lot with people. So I think what I need to do is just take you back a little bit, take you back to a little Nettee, just so that you get an idea of how my mental health, how I've managed it, well, how I haven't managed it a lot for a long time, and then I've had to work out a way of doing it. Otherwise, because it all came crumbling down, which it does with a lot of people. So little Nettee, and I talk about her as a little person because I think, because I've done a lot of talking to the little Nettee, and I found that really helpful, that I was talking to her like I'm comforting a child, that she is a little girl and she needs comforting because she's in a really confusing world and a confusing state. So I was brought up in quite an idyllic situation. to lots of people. It was really nice in the fact that I was on a farm in the countryside. It was very beautiful and I had a lot of freedom. But on the flip side to that, it was very isolating and very lonely. I was in a very large family with 4 older siblings, and it was in the 70s. So, there was a lot more freedom in the fact that we was just left to our own devices and left to do our own thing. But with that, and being in a household with adults, essentially, because I was the youngest, then that left me quite confused and not kind of knowing where I fitted into all of this. And I was kind of treated by my mum as a very special thing that she had to parade around. So from the age of 2.5, so the first time I was on stage was at 2.5. And I remember the moment like it was yesterday still. So it was at the local Amdram. We was doing pantomime and it was Jack and the Beanstalk. I was 2.5, bearing in mind. So just if you've got a child that's 2.5, just imagine them having to go through this. So I was little Jack. So the part of the story was they'd put the big Jack, the normal Jack and the Beanstalk Jack, into the pie, and when they put the pie into the oven, and then when they pulled the pie out of the oven, out pops little Nettee at 2.5, dressed as a miniature version of Jack and the Beanstalk, and out I popped out of this kind of polystyrene made sort of pie thing. And out she pops. And I remember still now that very first, so that would be the very first time that I would be in front of a big audience. So I would, the darkness, I don't know if anyone's been on stage and knows that feeling of you can't quite see the faces looking at you, but you can kind of see the front row, and then you've got the brightness from the lights. So my instant thought was sort of just that vision of looking out beyond the stage. And that was quite something for me at that age. And I did that night after night, jumping out of my pie. I did a little dance because I was like the performing monkey. And I did my little dance and off I went off stage, and everybody thought that was wonderful. Oh, wasn't it? So that was my very first exposure to the stage. And from that moment on, of course, then I was encouraged to do all the things of ballet and tap and modern, jazz, singing, dancing, contemporary. Well, it wasn't contemporary, that kind of came later on because that wasn't a trendy thing right then in the 70s. That kind of came on later. So I went to dancing every day. It was all about the dancing. It was all about the music. I was taught how to play instruments from the age of 2. There's pictures of me holding brass instruments in my hand at the age of 2, playing the piano, singing. It was all about the music. It was all about the dancing, all about the performing. And I kid you not, I was performing in everything, absolutely everything local. I was put in for it. There's competitions, dancing competitions, dancing festivals, exams, absolutely everything. So my kind of life from that 2.5 to I was 10, I was being trained. I was being trained as a performer, which sounds all very lovely and wonderful, which it was because it taught me many skills. But what it also taught was a lot of self-doubt, perfectionism, not good enough. And I was never good enough. I was always too fat, too ugly, never won anything really. I was in these competitions, but I never quite got there. My dancing was all right, but not brilliant. My toes were pointed, but not quite enough. My turnout was good, but not quite enough. So you were always criticised. You spend your whole part of your influential, when you're being influenced, being criticised, like your tummy's too big, your bottom needs to tuck in, your legs need to be straight, you point your feet a bit more, put your head up. I line up. You have to look up at the crowd. And of course, then I did professional pantomimes when I was sort of 8, 9 and 10. I was in professional pantomimes with famous people. And then at the age of 10, I was sent to a ballet school, a performing school. So then I was at a boarding school, which was a whole new game. But I had to go through 4 auditions to get into the school. So it was like one of the top dancing schools in the country. So it sounds great again, but that's why I'm saying this is because what this is embedding in a very early age is this: I'm not good enough. I'm not perfect. I'm too fat. I'm too ugly. My smile isn't straight enough. My eyes aren't bright enough. My head isn't looking up. My shoulders aren't down. My shoulders are up here. They should be down. My back should be straight. So it makes you very, very self-critical. So, of course, then going to a ballet school where you've got all these beautifully talented young girls, well, children, because I was 11 when I got there. I was 10 when I auditioned and then 11 when I started. So it was my secondary school. So when I got there, of course, I thought it was amazing going to a boarding school. Brilliant. Yes, I'm going to sleep away from home until about the second week. And then it all kind of kicked in, sort of that being homesick and then bullying and then again, etc. You can't, when you're getting bullied in that environment, you can't get away from it. So, of course, that just reinforced all those feelings and all those beliefs of not being good enough, not being perfect enough. We were weighed and measured. Mainly most weeks we were weighed and measured to make sure that we weren't growing too much, like putting on too much weight for our height, that we were all on strict diets. We were told that we were fat, where we had ballet teachers going around poking our tummies, telling us our tummies were poking out. It was a bit like, if you imagine sort of the Russian ballet dancers, we were kind of trained like that. It was really very strict. So by the time I get to 16, then I'm like this mess, really. Even though I'm really good at dancing, can't do anything else. Education just went sideways. I left school without being able to read or write, hardly. So that just reinforced that feeling of not being good enough and not having, everything has to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then it's not worth doing. So completely embedded within me. So then I go on to London, and then, of course, I go into the dance world in London, which is, again, another step up, because, of course, you're in your little boarding school where you're sheltered and looked after-ish, and then you're in the big wide world of London and living in the middle of London at the age of 16 and with no parental guidance or anything like that. So that was in the 80s, so it was all a little bit wild. And it kind of then escalated. Then eating problems happened, of course, because I was always too fat, always told I was too fat, because, of course, I'm tall, I'm not tiny built. And they said that I was too tall for ballet, but just about short enough for jazz, and that I should go into musical theatre. Oh no, I should go into drama. Oh, I should go into singing. And it was like, what is this girl going to be good at? So I wasn't good enough for ballet. So I didn't go down that route. So then by the time I got to London, my brain is an absolute mess. So the reason I'm saying all of this is because what we were as children, or the adults that are around us that influenced us at those really important times, is really important when we're going into adulthood, on how our belief system, our thought patterns, and then our actions. So what I've been doing on social media is trying to reinforce all this sort of your thought patterns. And so your thinking, it starts with your thinking, and then it goes into your actions, and then it goes to your beliefs systems. that's kind of layers up like that. So where does it all start? It all starts with how we think, what we think, how we think about ourselves, our continuous dialogue in our head. And that's many, many years on is what I've had to get a grip of, what I've had to find a way for me to my thought patterns, because of course they escalate, they overthink, my anxious brain, and it gets overstimulated. And of course, I've been in overstimulating environments, into the musical theatre, into theatre. Then I was a teacher. I did primary school teaching, and now I'm in the ambulance service. So all the jobs that I've done are super, super makes you overthink. But then I've managed to put myself into these situations all the time. So that's a little bit of where I've come from and sort of the background. So with me today, I have got two lovely ladies supporting me, which is really great. And because this is the first time I've done podcasts, it's the first time I've done this kind of thing. So who knows whether we're going to like it or not, whether this goes out into the real world or not is another thing. So I've got with me today, I have got Kirsty.
Hello.
Who is a really great friend of mine from work. And I have got Yasmin.
Hi.
And so I've got two friends, which is great, which I bet they're wondering why they're here
What
today
did I
as
sign
well.
myself
So I just needed to get all of that out because I think it's important for people to know sort of my basis of why I have focused on my mental health. What have I done with all of that now? So, of course, the thread through all of this, even though I couldn't really read or write much as a child because that wasn't focused on, and of course I was probably undiagnosed dyslexia as well because I remember a time in school, I expect we've all been there, when they go round the class because you're reading out of a book. And then one person reads a little paragraph, then the next person reads, and the next person reads, and then it comes to you. And they made me stand up and read. And I could not read. The words were jumbling around everywhere. The words got stuck here. And this was at the age of sort of around 11, 12, secondary school age. Like from that moment on, I had the belief that I couldn't speak in public. I couldn't say words. I can't read. And that kind of put that belief system in there straight away because I got kind of picked on from then. But what I secretly used to do at boarding school was we used to have, like in the evening. So when you're at boarding school, of course, you've got to do everything there. So we did homework time, sort of after we had our supper. Then we'd all go back into the classroom, say after supper time. And then we call it prep time, but it's homework time. So I used to, because I wasn't interested in work at all and I wasn't bothered with that, I used to have a little diary and I used to write in my diary like my journal. So I've still got my original like diary journal, like a dear diary kind of thing from secondary. And I used to just write. The handwriting was scruffy. I couldn't spell. Not much has changed. And I used to do this dear diary. So this writing was a really therapeutic thing for me at that early age. And that writing has kind of been a thread for me all the way through my life. I've always kept a journal, always kept a diary. There's been a big part of my life where I didn't actually, and I came back to it. But I find it really therapeutic to write. So I did all this writing, and then I kind of thought, then I had this bright idea, like I do, because I always have these like podcasting. Oh, it'd be good. I could put all of this together, because I've got a drawer full of like diaries and journals at home. Oh, I could put all this together and make a book. That'd be all right. Oh, I could be an author. That's a good idea. And that's kind of escalated a little bit to the point where, so over the last few years, I've really been concentrating on self-help and doing lots of reading, lots of listening, lots of courses. And I did a writing course about a year ago with Hay House, which is an American authors. And I did an online writing, I think it was free or not very much. And I really enjoyed it. And then from that, so that was last March. And then from that moment, it's just, I've written a book. It's like, it just all kind of came together. But the reason it came together was because I put together a little private WhatsApp group, and and for the month of May, I blessed them. I sent them something out every day for the month of May. And with all those posts that I did for them on their WhatsApp group is now my book. And which is quite amazing. I know, it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
And now I have a book. And now with the contents of that book, I'm putting in different ways and in different forms, I'm putting that onto social media and then hopefully helping people with their mindset. And it's like, and that's all happened within the last year. So, plus all the other things. So I'm quite pleased with that. Anyways, so that's all of that. So that my next step is the book. And then these podcasts, I just thought would be a good way of just chatting with people, because you don't want to hear my voice the whole time, because that would be really annoying. But it would be nice to chat to people on different ways that they manage their mental health. So that's kind of me going dump, because of course I've just had that all up in my brain, up here in this space this whole time. And then you kind of think, oh, I'll do a podcast. Oh yeah, what should I talk about? I don't know. So I booked this space.